Be live. All right. I think we are up and live, and I want to welcome everybody to Longbox Crusades Creators Spotlight. I am your host, Jarrod Alberich, the yard sale artist, and joining me, as always, is penciler extraordinaire, direct from Bermuda, mighty Mark Hatherley. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing very well, Jarrod. How you been?
Oh, just these months go by fast, man.
They do go by pretty fast. It's nice to be back again. Hello to everyone out there.
Oh, yes. Hello to everybody out there. I want to see if I can't put Mark on the big board for a second. You see, he's working on another page for Shipwrecker. So I cleverly, I'm learning this whole thing, Mark. I got the Shipwrecker update banner up now. We can see that. Looks like he's got some good stuff. I see pirate. I see zombies.
Yeah. Into the fun stuff now. My camera's terrible. I'm not sure why.
Hey, no, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. So yeah, those of you who may be watching, I see we have some folks starting to come in. I definitely welcome you guys into the chat. We have a very friendly chat group. We're going to have a very special guest with us in just a moment as soon as we get done with our Shipwrecker update, and it won't take long today. We don't have a big update, and that's mostly my fault, isn't it, Mark? I found you another commission, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, it's actually a good and a bad thing.
I know. I found Mark some more commission work and made him a little money, but then it slowed down our own comic. But
yeah, keeps me very busy. Yeah,
we're never in a big hurry anyway.
No.
But I have been talking with our colorist, and since I'm going to mention our colorist, I'll put up our colored page one. I've been talking with our colorist, Mr. Ace Wheely, and he's been doing good. He's got about 5 pages colored now, the first 5.
Wow.
But Ace, he doesn't ever put them in our shared folder, so we just have to take his word for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm interested. I'm very curious to see him. You know what I mean? I would love to see him actually.
Yeah.
But hey, I guess we have to wait.
Yeah. Our new inker Gotham has inked up to, I want to say it's page 11, 12, something like that.
Yeah, now. It's wrong about that.
Yeah. And then, of course, some recent pages from Mark. I think that's the last one, 26-ish, somewhere along the line. Pencils for that. Actually, somewhere in there.
Actually, I forgot about this page number.
27
too. Yeah, I have 27.
27 is ready to go.
I just gotta upload. I had to finish off a few things.
Looking good.
I just gotta drop it into the drive, scan it, and drop it in.
Oh, looks good.
I'm moving along, actually.
That's right. And our letterer has been doing some work behind the scenes prepping. There's a sample of a lettered page. Because, that's just another, for those of you out there who are watching who don't know, that's just sort of another layer. Think of it as a transparency that lays over Mark's pencils. So our colorist and our inker can go in and work on that. And then we just lay the transparency sort of back on there. And the letters just go right over. So it's pretty sweet.
Yep.
So
I must say.
Yeah, as usual, folks out there watching, I see our numbers are going up, and I appreciate that. Stop in the chat. Feel free to ask questions of Mark and I, about drawing or writing comics or how to make independent comics. We're happy to answer those questions. Or if you just want to know about, Bermuda and Lower Alabama, we're happy to help you with that too.
Yep.
Well, I know what you guys are here for. This is Creator Spotlight, so it's about time we spotlight our first creator. Oh, and I want to shout out to Courtney, our usual #1 fan in the chat, and followed closely by Chola. Those are like the anchors of our chat on this show. So welcome, Chola and Courtney.
Yeah.
Anyways, Chola, Courtney, let us know if you have any questions. I see plenty of watchers stopping by. Feel free to join those folks in the chat. We have a super friendly chat group. We already have a first question, and it's about Alabama life. is there a Lower Alabama triangle? I think he's mixing your culture and mine from Bermuda and Alabama.
Yeah, works for me.
That's just going in the chat. All right, let's get to our creator spotlight, which I think most people are here for, because you know what, Mark? We got a pretty cool one tonight.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead.
Definitely, yep.
Yeah, and add him to the stream and give him the big board for the moment. I want to welcome Mr. Ron Randall. Welcome to Longbox Crusade Creator Spotlight, Ron.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be here.
Awesome. For those of you out there who don't know Ron Randall, first of all, get your life together. Now, I'll tell you what. we're going to interview Ron. We're going to find out some interesting stuff about him. Ron has been in the comic books industry for. You want to fill in the blanks, Ron? I mean, honestly, Ron, I discovered you in Warlord.
Yeah, that was right. That was right near the dawn of time. Dawn of my time. Yeah. Yeah, I started working in the early '80s. So depending on how you want to score it, it's been about 40 years now. Yeah.
Okay, 40 years in the comics industry. And like I tell you, folks, I discovered him in Warlord, which is one of my very, very favorite books from DC. Started by Mike Grell, and Ron, you took over. Am I crazy, Ron, or did you start with backup stories and then move to Warlord?
No, that's exactly right. I've done some a few short backup stories in like the back of Sergeant Rock and House of Mystery and some of those, the
Right.
Books like that at DC. And then I got the chance to work on a backup story they were just getting ready to start in the back of Warlord called The Barren Earth, which is a science fiction, sort of like an Edgar Rice Burroughs flavored science fiction story. And so I worked on that as the backup in Warlord. And then from that, I moved on to some other stuff. And then eventually wound up getting asked to draw the lead feature in Warlord. So it was like this, I couldn't escape from Mike Grell's gravitational pull. I kept in his book.
The pull of Mike Grell is just irresistible.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just say, you see our commenter there, Cisco, said Barren Earth is why he got into Warlord. So yeah.
I got to say, when I most young cartoonists, when we start out, we got a little bit of almost like a chip on our shoulders, like we want to show everybody. And I remember what I was aspiring to when I got that backup gig is I remember that Mike Kaluta had drawn a Carson of Venus backup in the back of like the Korak, Tarzan's son, and his backup feature was so distinctive and to me so fresh and cool. That's why I bought Korak. And so I'm being told that my volume is pretty low. Is that true? Can you guys hear me?
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a bit low. I can hear you though.
I can hear him. Yeah. It's not as loud as us, Mark.
Right. Long mouse.
But anyway, so I wanted to try to do that. I wanted to. Mike Grell created something really special with that backup that I bought that comic for. So when I hear somebody say, "Yeah, I bought Warlord because of the backup I was doing," I say, "I was mission accomplished." That's kind of what I was after.
Excellent. I love it. I do. So so that's sort of like where Ron started. He started on those backups, then he moves into Warlord. Any other highlights you want to get to before we get to why you're here, Ron?
Well, I did. I had some great runs on different books. I did a little run on Justice League Europe. I got to do a Star Wars miniseries back when Dark Horse had the Star Wars rights. Yeah, I mean, different people will come up to me at shows and say, "Oh, I really loved your run on this," and it's different every time. So I did. I'm guilty of having worked on Predator and Venom, so I've done my share of scary monster comics too, I guess. And one of my early highlights was I was lucky enough to be able to work on the Swamp Thing book when it was being written by Alan Moore. Right. And I helped pitch in and help my buddies Steve Bissett and John Tottleman out with when they got in some deadline problems on issues. I was able to pitch in, sometimes helping with Steve's penciling, sometimes I helped with Tottleman on the inks. So I've had some pretty good lucky breaks.
Sounds like it. Now, before we jump into why Ron is here, I do this all the time because I'm the mouth runner of the show. Mark, do you have any questions for Ron and his history before we move on?
Well, I just would like to say that it's very nice to meet you, and it's actually quite intriguing to meet a real comic book artist.
Mark, you're a real comic book artist.
Hey, well, I'm already starting early, but no, it is very nice to the guests that we have on the show, and I'm glad that you took the time out to pop on our show. It's a privilege, so thank you.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this. We'll fast forward from the old days to today. today. I'm going to put up a banner because I want people to know. Hopefully I spelled that banner right when I type. Looks good to me. Okay. Good. Ron has been creating his own character, Trekker, now for fill in the blank years, Ron.
Do the math, about 35 years, something like that.
35 years.
Yeah,
Nice.
I can explain, but I did create Trekker back in, I created in like 86, and it first came out in Dark Horse at the beginning of 87. Had a checkered sort of off and again, on again sort of publishing history, which is why it's taken me this long to to be at this point in the story that I am. It's not that I'm that slow. Just had a lot of interruptions.
Well, Ron's got a campaign going now for his latest volume of Trekker, which is called Reckoning on Rigel. And I have a couple of your trade collections already. I think mostly gifted to me by the lovely Ruth and the very handsome Darren Sutherland. They are the best. So my first question is about this new one, this Reckoning on Rigel. My first, which by the way, folks, the Kickstarter starts today. It started today. And the website you can see at the bottom of the screen is trekkerkickstarter.com.
Awesome.
Definitely want to back that. This is another collected book, if I was looking at it right. Sort of like a trade or maybe a long. Help me out. Like, it's not a single issue.
No. When I'm doing what I do now, so Trekker started at Dark Horse, and it did come out as a single, floppy issue. Well, it started as some backup stories in their, or not backup stories, but in their anthology book. So short chapters. And then she had her own series where it was individual floppy books. And Trekker is a bounty hunter, science fiction bounty hunter series named Mercy St. Clair. Should get that in, I guess. Anyway, but now that I'm using Kickstarter to fund the rest of the series, it makes sense to the format that works best for me is to do them as these trade paperbacks. Right. So each story has sort of a flexible length to it. Some of the lead stories are, 70 pages long. The next one might be 80 or 90 pages long. So I've got a little bit of room to make the story fit as well as I can without having to cramp things in and without having to sort of unnecessarily pad things. And then I always have like a second story. Sometimes there's even two other shorter stories that are sort of, they function kind of like backup stories. What they do is they let me take some of the characters or some other backstory about Mercy's life, and I try to fill that stuff in so that, because the main story is an action adventure science fiction story, and I try to put a lot of extra side bits in there, but I don't want to have the forward momentum of an action adventure story come grind to a halt where we have this long extended sequence about some other secondary character. I can do that kind of stuff in the backup stories. So I find it just really enriches the overall world of Trekker without sort of bogging down, for lack of a better phrase, that main lead feature. That's a long answer to the question, but yeah, I try to come out with a trade paperback. Each one is a completely self-contained adventure of Trekker with some additional enhancing material, let's put it that way. And then when you string them all together, they tell the overall arc of her life's journey. So that's maybe as good a capsule description as I can give.
No, I think that's good. I mean, you're in the 70, 80 page Reckoning on Rigel. How many pages Reckoning on Rigel?
The lead story there is 78 pages, and the backup is going to be about 14. Nice. And then with the extra materials, then I'm going to be we're hitting stretch goals already, so I'm going to be adding some content like process stuff, thumbnails, pencils, inks, design sketches, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to get up to 112 to 120, somewhere in that range of pages, probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
You hear that, Mark? These are things we can learn for when we launch our Kickstarter.
Yeah. 120 pages, huh?
I don't know about that, Mark. I think I wrote a 48-page story. I'm not going to lie. We're good. We're about to take a look at some art that Ron has shared with us from this volume, and he can speak to each one. But before we do that, we sort of got a retro rewind question from Courtney in the chat, if you don't mind, Ron.
Not at all.
Who inspired you to get into comics? Who was your inspiration?
I had a lot of inspirations over the years. When I was in second grade, I met a guy who. So back when I was a kid, comic books were kind of ubiquitous. You'd go into the local corner shop and you'd get a candy bar and you'd get a comic book, and you just sort of took them for granted. It was just another thing that you did as a kid to whatever, amuse yourself or whatever. But I had a buddy that I met in second grade, and this guy already had a huge collection of comics, and they were stacked and sorted by the different creators. Carl Barks was the guy that drew the Uncle Scrooge comic books, right? And then Stanley and Jack Kirby were the guys that did the Fantastic Four, and Steve Ditko drew Spider-Man. I had never stopped to realize I was young, right? I was young and slow. I didn't realize that people actually, did these things. I thought they were just like, maybe I thought they would just spat out of some machine like a candy bar. I don't know. Anyway, so my buddy Kurt, that was when the light bulb first went off in my head, and it said, people do this for a living? That sounds kind of cool. Then spin forward a few years, and I would see different artists in the comic books that I would stumble across on the in the comic shop, not the comic shops, the local corner stores where they sold comics back in the day. And I mean, I saw some artists that I really liked. The guy that really, Joe Kubert, who I wound up going to Joe's school, he was one of the artists that just did amazing, distinctive, powerful work. Jack Kirby, of course. But the guy that, as much as anything else, just flipped my world on end was Al Williamson. I saw an issue of Flash Gordon that he drew for King Comics because of King Features Syndicate. The guy,
right?
Anyway, Al's work was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and it just, for lack of a better phrase, it transported me to this gorgeous, lush, romantic science fiction world. And I looked at that comic book and I said to myself, I want to be that guy. Not I want to be Flash Gordon out there having adventures and fighting swamp creatures. I wanted to be the writer and artist that wrote and told those stories.
Nice.
So that was really I guess I'd say the crystallizing moment for me.
Very cool. Very cool. Apparently, since you said that wanting to create your own world, I'm going to take one more question from the chat, and then we'll get into viewing the art from your latest Trekker on Kickstarter. And I'll remind everybody that the web address is at the bottom of the screen right now. So if you're watching this, we won't be mad if you open a new tab and listen to this while you do trekkerkickstarter.com and
please feel free. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can do radio. It doesn't have to be video. But one more question before we get into art from, this is actually the founder of the Longbox Crusade Network. So we're glad Pat stopped by. How far ahead do you have the story planned out to? Like, I know you're going to do more. Like, this is your universe. We all know you're going to do more. Right. How much more do you have sort of at the ready, or maybe thinking about, what's your future looking like for Mercy?
It's all planned out now. Seriously, I mean, I've got the outline for the rest of the series written down and broken down, story by story, to get to the end of the journey with her. When I first created the series back in the day at Dark Horse, I was a fledgling writer. I mean, I was just beginning as a writer. I'd been drawing comics professionally for a few years, but other than a couple of short stories in the back of Sergeant Rock and stuff, like I said earlier, I hadn't written anything for comics. So. But I loved science fiction. I'd read a lot of science fiction books and, all that sort of stuff. So I knew I wanted to tell the story about this young woman who, she's a bounty hunter. She starts off in this violent, sort of gritty, black and white sort of worldview. And that was good enough for her. And the idea of the series is the way life gradually breaks us all open and becomes more complicated than we want it to be, and transports us into different roles and larger stages. It's very inconvenient. So I wanted to tell that series, and I knew that I had the evolution of this young woman's life. That's what I wanted to trace, and I also knew that I wasn't the writer that had the chops to do it and pull it off at the time. Because I also wanted to have this expanding sort of science fiction, broad screen, epic sort of scale to it. And that's a ship that I wasn't ready to bring into, I couldn't land that airplane. So I started off with stories that were sort of just sort of simpler action adventure tales that I could build and have a resolution to. But within those early stories, I was planting, characters and references to stuff that I said when I'm a more experienced writer, I'll develop that stuff and enrich the world. So skip forward a bunch of years. Like I said, there were times when I would be away from working on Trekker for long periods of time. And when I finally got back to the point now that I'm at now, where I'm committed to just sticking with the series, see it through to its conclusion, I had all that time to let all the experience sort of, gestate in me and come to fruition. So in all that time, I had a chance to figure out exactly where I want to go and how I'm going to get there. So I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on how things are going to go.
That sounds awesome. Got the whole thing planned out.
Yeah. I mean, I have the outline for it worked out, but I always reserve the right to, if I get a great idea for a place to take this story or something like the settings of the individual stories, I can have some flexibility with. It's the overall arc of Mercy's life and the way, each story takes another rung up the ladder of her personal evolution. That's what's more or less set. And all the accessories around that I've got a lot of flexibility there. So for me, it's like a perfect balance of, I've got the basic game plan down, but plenty of room to improvise as I go along. So it keeps it interesting for me too.
Nice. I like it. That catches us up with chat questions. I'm going to change the format of the screen just a little because we're going to, nobody wants to see me. We don't watch Mark draw because I'm going to put your first piece up in the middle. Change my banner. Look, you even had a banner for that too. I just want to impress Mark more than anything. And let's get our first piece of. Oh well, you know what? It's funny that we just said that because somebody just in the comments, the people from Trekker Talk, said love seeing your in progress work there, Mark. So people are appreciating what you do. Just so you know.
Thank you. I feel honored.
Let's pull up some art from Trekker Reckoning on Randall. Here we have what looks to me to be the cover.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
So talk to us about this cover design and what your thoughts were or inspirations or anything you have to say about your cover.
Okay, well, I guess the first thing I'd say is I try to have every cover kind of reflect as best I can something of the tone and the specific content of that particular story, because one of the things I like to do with Trekker is take each of these stories and sort of shift I almost like to move within subgenres of science fiction. The story before this one was essentially Mercy St. Clair is on this savage moon that's raw and primitive, and she has to track down a monster. It's called Hunter's Moon, and it's one of those who's the hunter and who's the hunted, most dangerous game sort of thing. But it just really turns out to be like this tooth and claw death match between Mercy and this big science fiction mutated creature. Sort of maybe I was thinking in terms of something like Predator or what I was really thinking of was Joe Cuba drawing Tarzan fighting off savage creatures in the jungles of Africa. But I wanted something that very sort of primitive and savage. So that cover tried to convey that sort of thing. This story is more like I'm trying to go for more of a sort of a suspense mystery tension sort of tone. So I wanted a cover that felt a little bit more somber and ominous, but very dramatic. So that's what I was trying to go for here. And I try to shift the color scheme on each cover so it's sort of distinctive and conveys something about the overall atmosphere and environment I'm going for as well. So that's a little bit about it. This is Mercy St. Clair and her girlfriend Molly, who is a musician, so she's not she's not an action adventure hero, and yet she plays a larger and larger role in Mercy's life as their relationship develops, and it just seemed like it was time to have the two of them on this cover for reasons about stuff that goes on in the story too that we don't need to get into right now because that would be spoilers perhaps.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil it. I only have 2 interior pages I think you sent me to show the folks. I'll be honest with you, one of the vibes I got from the cover is almost a James Bondy influence in a way. I don't know if that was on your mind or but it just worked out that way. But
yeah, I mean that wasn't on my mind, but once I had it drawn, I said, yeah, I can totally see a James Bond thing there. There's no question about it. And like I said, there's a little bit of that, this one isn't a story about a secret agent, but there's some of the same sort of stuff going on there. Bond gets in these tight spots, these sort of claustrophobic scrapes he's got to get out of. And there's usually a beautiful woman he's that's involved in the thing.
He's somehow involved,
somehow involved. So some of that stuff is at play here. Honestly, I was also thinking of the old TV show, The Avengers.
Oh, right.
Steve
definitely. Yeah. I'm going to ask one more question about technical stuff about the cover. Sure. And then Mark, if you've got anything cooking, I definitely don't want to move on without checking in on you. I know you're drawn, but I know you like to ask questions too. Just from a technical point of view, lettering, coloring, is that all you, or do you have people that help you with that at all?
Thanks for asking. I almost always forget to give credit to my colorist. On the covers, Jeremy Caldwell, a really great colorist who's done a lot of work for DC and some from Marvel on a variety of books. But I knew Jeremy when he was first getting into the business and stuff. And when he first decided to focus on coloring, and I bumped into him at a comic convention, this is years ago, before I was even back to working on Trekker. And he had a portfolio of color samples. And I flipped through his portfolio and I said, you have exactly the feel and the color palette approach that I would love to have on Trekker. So I said to him, when I get back to doing Trekker, because I always knew I was going to get back to it, if I possibly can, I want to get you to be my colorist. And so Jeremy colored the first few stories of Trekker that I did once I got back to doing it. And I still have him doing the covers, although now I'm doing the interior colors myself with the help of my color aide, a young woman named Caitlin Blake. But so Jeremy Caldwell did the colors on this cover. I usually give Jeremy something of an idea for like a color palette I'm after, and maybe a few images as examples of sort of some, the approach that I kind of have in mind in general. But Jeremy is a wonderful painter and just has a great eye for that stuff. So I give him some general parameters to work within, and then let him go. And then once I see the work coming in from Jeremy, I might say, well, maybe we could make this part a little darker, or lighten that a little bit more, or do something to separate an element here. Just a couple of little bits of minor tweaks, I guess I'd say. But usually when he turns something into me, it's like 95% exactly what I want right out of the box, which is just fantastic. And then a couple of fine tuning tweaks, and we're there. The lettering and stuff. Well, that logo, the Trekker logo, was designed a bazillion years ago by the brilliant letterer John Workman. Legendary lettered Simonson's run on Thor, did a ton of logo designs all over the map. John Workman's just one of the greats. And I was lucky enough when I was doing Trekker at Dark Horse back in the day, they got John to design a logo for me, and I've just sort of modified it minorly to update it ever so slightly. But so he did the logo, and the rest of it's me.
Awesome. Mark, anything on your mind about the cover before we move on?
Yeah, well, it's an awesome cover.
Thank you.
Beautiful artwork. One thing I wanted to ask. Well, first I wanted to comment on a comment you made earlier about how comic books are created, because I was somewhat the same. You look at the complete finished book, but I never realized the process that it took to get to that point. But what I really wanted to ask is, as far as managing your time and balancing out real life, like how do you go about that? Because I find that pretty difficult with what little I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's I think to do this job well, it's just an incredibly labor-intensive job. People look at creative people, musicians, artists, writers, and there's this romantic notion that we just sit around and inspiration strikes and then effortlessly it flows out of us, and then we go off and we drink wine on the banks of the Seine. Or,
Agreed.
That ain't my life. My life is. Yep. I used to make the joke that I'm a freelance artist, so I can set my schedule and I have all the freedom in the world. I can choose whichever 18 hours of the day I want to spend drawing. I can pick any 18 hours, and the rest I can do whatever I want to. So it just takes a lot of time to do this well. I just don't know any other answer for it. So one of the huge strengths that anybody needs to have, I think, to survive in the business and to evolve and get better is you have to be able to manage your time well and just be disciplined. Yeah, well, that's the wrong way to say it. I really think what's required is you have to enjoy, not tolerate, not be able to force yourself to do it, because I don't think you can do that long enough. You have to enjoy sitting in a desk drawing for hours and hours and hours on end without anybody patting you on the back or praising you. You've got to enjoy the process of slaving away on your art to get good at it, to be able to tolerate the hours it takes to do it well. And then what you're left with is, then how do you manage to still have some kind of a life and have healthy relationships with other people and take care of yourself too? It's a constant challenge, and it's the people that can solve that equation in a way that works for them are the ones who can make it, and other people just have to find other things to do. I've seen it happen to lots of folks.
That's an excellent answer. That's probably one of the best answers I heard.
Probably.
Yeah, because it's not this, romantic. Like in most cases, folks always see the finished product.
Mm-hmm.
They never see what you go through anytime you spend like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. By yourself. But you do have to enjoy it. I agree, and for me, luckily enough, I love to draw. But that's a great answer. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, let's go into the interior art. We've got 2 pages that Ron has allowed us to share on the show. So that's a fantastically laid out artistic page there, Ron. What would you like to say on this one?
Well, first of all, it's not a page from the book. This is a montage that I put together, assembled out of a bunch of panels from throughout the story. I did this because I did this starting with the previous campaign, and it's because of the way that I try to lay out the Kickstarter campaigns, where if you go to the campaign, you the creators start talking about their campaign, what the story's about, who their collaborators are, why they're doing it, whatever it is, and eventually you get down to, if it's a comic book, seeing some examples of the work. That's the meat and potatoes of it. And originally what I would be doing, I would show, 5 or 6 pages, and you'd scroll down through all those pages and get a sense of the story and maybe even read the first handful of pages that way. But I just became concerned, because when you build one of these campaigns and you put in this reward level and that reward level, and you talk about the shipping costs and you talk about all these details, a backer has to scroll through an awful lot of material. So to consolidate that, I just tried to do something like this, an image that gives you a really quick, almost like fast forwarding through the movie trailer.
Yep.
So you can just see at a glance some of the images. You can see how I draw, what the basic subject matter of the story is, how I try to execute it, try to capture some of the flavor for the story, and try to sort of try to get in and out really quick. I want to play fair with the readers so that they can get an honest and accurate representation about what I'm up to doing.
Right.
But I don't want to just go on and on about it. So this is my solution for that.
It's brilliant.
So I picked some image. I try to get across some of the range of the story. There's tension, there's action, there's some humor, there's tender moments, there's some vulnerability, a sense of some of the cast of characters. I'm trying to, again, expand the scale of the story and Mercy's universe as time goes on. So it's a lot to try to convey quickly, but I just picked some images that I thought helped get us down there a bit.
That's a really good idea. We're going to steal that one too, Mark.
Yeah.
No, it's a great idea. Like you said, it's almost like a quick movie trailer montage. A lot of flavor. You get to see actual images from the book. Like you said, they learn your art style, and I think it's wonderful. You did a great job. You selected some great images.
Thanks. Well, and another thing I guess I'll make a point about here is that I have an advantage that a lot of people running Kickstarters don't have. I've been lucky enough to be able to have all of my stories done before I run my campaign.
Yeah, definitely. That's how we roll.
That does a few things. It makes it easier for me to fulfill it in a timely fashion. That's hugely important. And it also gives me all the images from that story. I can cherry pick through them. You know what I mean? And just pick, here's an image that is a good, strong image, but it doesn't spoil anything. That's important too. So so I've got that going for me, and it lets me, it lets me pick, present the book in a good way, and assure the readers that the work is all done on this story. I have some bonus feature content and stuff that we'll have to add, like the backup story, because in the backup story, I make a level on the campaign where you can be drawn into the story and get the page of original art to appear on. So obviously I can't do that story until the campaign's over. But the main feature, the reason people are buying the book, that's all done before I launch the campaign. And,
yeah, that's definitely a good idea for
excellent idea.
That's something. That's one that we already had. Mark and I were like, we're not going to launch anything until the book is done.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It's not easy to do. A lot of campaigns, can't do that. It's tricky. We don't need to go into the reasons here, but I was able to I had a couple stories done before I launched my first Kickstarter. So, lucky me, I guess I'd say.
yeah, and I'll be honest with you, and I tell folks that I meet at conventions, and I'll tell anybody who's watching now, if at all possible, save your nickels and dimes, invest in yourself so that you can build your book. You can pay for your book up front, and then basically use your Kickstarter as a recoup. That's the way to go, because like Ron said, fulfilling a Kickstarter, it can be a full-time job. You don't want to have to fulfill and try to finish a book at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and people are bragging about you in the chat. I put a couple comments on about how good you are of fulfilling your campaigns, Ron. So that's awesome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I've been very proud of the fact that every one of my campaigns, I've been able to get it out to backers by, when you're building a campaign, they say, you're supposed to put in an expected date that you fulfill it by, and I've always been able to hit that, and sometimes get in a little bit earlier. And again, that's just, I have the luxury of, I have the 90% of the work is done before I launch the campaign, and then all the finishing up details can come together pretty quickly. So I've been fortunate, but it's very, very important to me. I think, people that have followed Trekker, they've been, it's been a long suffering audience. Like I said, they've had to go a long period of time between stories, and sometimes it was almost like I was playing, find the hidden Trekker story. I'd put out an issue randomly, sort of, with Dark Horse when they had a chance to pull it out, and they would sort of, be a blip on, and then drop off the radar. So people couldn't even find the story sometimes. Very frustrating for them, for me. So now with Kickstarter, I just say, I want the books to come out on a regular, consistent basis, because that's what will build the audience and reward the viewers, and it gives a series a rhythm, so that this, so it serves everything the best that way. So I've just been really thankful that because of the support of the backers and everything else, I've been able to so far keep up the pace that seems to work for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny you should say that, because I was just thinking that if you jump the gun, then if it doesn't materialize, then that's hard on your image. And then if for whatever reason, maybe a year or two later, you manage to get things together and you come out, it's going to be that much harder to promote, because like people's going to say, well, I've seen this guy, rear his head before and it disappeared, So that's a good point as well.
Yeah, at that point, you better just change your name.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, because that stuff can happen. A lot of things, a lot of unforeseen things can pop up with one of these things. And
exactly.
The best advice I've heard, if you happen to be one of the creators who runs a successful campaign, and then you're in the middle of making your book after the campaign, and something unfortunate happens, and there are big delays and complications, the single best thing you can do, and I've heard this advice from all over the map, is just keep talking to your backers about it. Be honest, be transparent, let them know what's going on. I got hit by a bus and I'm in traction for the next 4 months. The book's going to be delayed, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is, the worst thing to do is to ghost your backers after they've given you their money and put their faith in you. So if for whatever reason you have to let them down, just be honest. Just let them know you're just a person, and things just fell apart for whatever reason or reasons, and just keep them in the loop as best you can. That's all you can do, and then work your ass off to get it to them as soon as you can. Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Sounds good.
Any questions about the art page, Mark, before we move on to the final one he shared?
No, I guess obviously, I appreciate art, as an artist, and I think it's a beautiful page. The layout, everything, artwork, the inks, the shade, and I love the character. You know what I mean? I was going through some things past couple of days of looking at some of your artwork previously, and I think it's awesome. You know what I mean? It actually gives me goosebumps, and to know that I can actually sit and talk with you. And thanks to Jarrod, because I've met so many great people. Who would have thought? I started drawing like crap, in my bedroom all by myself. I would have never thought it would go to this. But I don't know. I always loved to draw, and I got inspired one day, so I just said, you know what, I'm going to start drawing again, and it's led me to somewhere great, even for myself. You know what I mean? Especially at my age. But yeah, that is lovely, and I'm looking forward to it. And everything, is up and running.
Especially at my age. Mark and I are the same age. But yeah, we do talk about that, don't we, Mark?
Yeah, we do.
We're taking it a little easy because we're a little old.
And not that we're super old, but obviously things like comics, most guys get into comics at what, 14, 15, and it grows from there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Mark and I started in our 40s.
Exactly, So we're not looking for any miracles,
We came late to the party. Not like Ron. Ron, you were pretty young when you started, weren't you, Ron? Goodness.
My mid-20s, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, right. That's like what I would consider to be like the average age, for most folks. I guess normal folks.
We came late.
Yeah, better late than never, huh?
I guess so. Well, let's bring up Ron's last page he's got for us. Now, so is this sort of another montagey thing, or is this an actual page?
Yeah, this was one that I'd done. I was doing it for one of the Kickstarter backer updates from the previous Trekker book, when I was just saying I'm going to be getting the Reckoning on Rigel story out fairly soon, and I wanted to give a few teaser images. So I just cribbed these from a few quick shots in the story. Mercy, Mercy looking fierce and tough, and Mercy and Molly in a tender moment. And then just a sequence that was really fun to do, and that's Mercy just in a stupid brawl with some goobers. They just seem like it's sort of, again, it's just trying to convey some of the sense of the style, but range of tones that I tried the story to hit.
Yeah, I definitely get, like, when you first sent me the images, I glanced at them. Oh, this is pages from the book. And then after you explained to me the last one, then I looked at the second one. I was like, okay, this is the same thing, because sequentially, unless there's some dialogue I'm missing, that doesn't make a ton of sense. But tonally, it does. You get a real good feel for Mercy's attitude in panel 1. You get the tender side of her romantic side in panel 2, and then sort of the brouhaha that is her life in panel 3.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, the brouhaha that is her life. I like that. I might have to make that.
That's a cool action scene as well. I love that action scene.
Thank you.
That is cool.
That's, again, I think a lot of that for me goes back to the way Joe Kubert would, when he was drawing a sequence and guys are fighting, you never felt like you were watching it from a safe distance. Joe would shove you right into the middle of a scrum.
Yeah,
somebody would be like grabbing your lapel or punching you in the nose or whatever like that. So, and there was that sense of chaos and frenetic energy when Joe did those sort of things. So I have that. I have an impulse to do that, and then on the other hand, I have the impulse to do drawings that are graceful and balanced and just sort of idealized, like Al Williamson would do. So I feel like I've got these two warring impulses inside of me.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. This is a great opportunity for folks in the chat as we're kind of winding down here. If you have questions for the great Ron Randall or the amazing Mark Hatherley, now's your chance to get them in to the chat. I will put a reminder up there that you should go to trekkerkickstarter.com. And unfortunately, there's my face again. Sorry, everyone. But I will also want to give the floor to Mr. Ron Randall. And first of all, thanks for being here. But more importantly, anything else you want people to know about this campaign? Now is the time to brag it and pimp on it, sir.
Well, this is my sixth Trekker campaign. Each of them has done well, and they've done increasingly well as time has gone on. So that's been very gratifying. And to me, what that means, what I'm hoping that it means, is people back the campaign out of curiosity. They remember the character fondly, whatever, and then they read the new story, and they want more. Because I'm a storyteller, and what I want is for people to always ask the question of what's next. I want them to get to the end of one page and say, what's next? I want them to get to the end of one story and say, what's next? And the fact that they keep coming back and in greater and greater numbers means that I hope it means that I'm doing something right. Nothing means more than to have somebody come up to me at a convention, or reach out to me through social media and say, I love the series, and I really love the characters. For me, that's what stories are all about, whatever genre you're working in. For me, the thing that holds me in a story is a sense of connection to a character. So with Trekker, from the very beginning, my main goal was to try to create a character that felt recognizably like a real human being. So that the reader could identify with them and then go through all the experiences of the story and care about what happens. I don't think I'm the greatest writer in the world at coming up with mind-blowing fresh concepts. There's some writers that are fantastic at that. This the high concept sort of stories. I think I tell more of a nuts and bolts, grounded, sort of down-to-earth action adventure comic story. But I hope that I enrich it by having characters that people care about, and then I just do the best I can with that stuff, and it's incredibly gratifying to have readers do that. Reckoning on Rigel is a really special story to me. I don't know if the images show it too much, but as each story goes on, I try to delve deeper and deeper into Mercy's own emotional world, as well as expanding the big and ever increasingly complicated and dangerous outer world that she's part of too. So I'm trying to make it an inward journey and an outer journey at the same time. There's a reason I called the series Trekker from the beginning. She's on a journey. It's not the one she thinks that she's on, So anyway, yeah, I guess I'd leave it with that, and hope readers will be willing to at least go. If you go to the Kickstarter, there's a little video there. It has more images. There's a little capsule summary of the plot or the concept for the thing. And I try to very quickly give you the flavor and what my objectives are with the book and the series, and I think I think then it's up to the reader to see is this up their alley or not. And fortunately, so far a lot of readers like it. It's hit its funding goal very fast, and we're marching through about the fourth stretch goal now to make the book bigger and put spot gloss on the cover, and I'm mostly just about telling a good story, but these Kickstarters are great opportunities to make the books, really put a lot of enhancements on them. Soft touch cover laminate's going to be one of the stretch goals we're after, and then eventually we start hanging on extra bells and whistles like extra prints and maybe enamel pins, magnets, all that sort of, those extra tchotchkes. Those are fun. But to me, the main thing is I want to tell a damn good story and have it be packaged in a way that it really serves it well. So the reader holds it in their hand, it feels good, they flip through the pages, and they just get lost in the story. That's all I really want to do.
Well, that's a great place to come from. Which there have been a couple of questions as your people taking their opportunities here. Speaking of how difficult it is to come up with questions, our longtime supporter Courtney was just, how hard is it to come up for a comic book? And she's trying to think of a way to make a comic book about kidney disease, which is something we know that she fights, and we're with you on that, Courtney. So we both know that it can be challenging or it can be easy. Like it really depends on how it comes at you. But your thoughts on the difficulty of starting a book?
Like you say, it can come easy and it can be very, very hard. When I'm trying to come up with a concept of a particular Trekker story, I almost feel when I'm trying to get the idea right and get the right sort of overall sense of what the story could be, I almost feel like I have to almost sneak up on it. I can't try to force it too much, because then it'll fall apart or race away from me like a rabbit you're trying to catch in the bush. So I have to try to be gentle with it and just sort of throw down some different basic overall ideas, jotting down a few notes of this and this and this. And I think the first thing I try to do is turn off my editor voice in my head. Well, that's not a good idea. That's not really a Trekker story, or the characters wouldn't do that. I just try to, if I'm sort of struggling to find my way, it's more important to do something than to do nothing. So I'll write down some story ideas or an idea of where this scene might start here, just to get the wheels turning, to get the ball rolling. And I start writing that stuff down. And then if halfway through that, I'll say, oh, a better idea, or maybe it could be this instead, I'll just write that down. Mercy's, entered the cockpit of a ship and she's starting to punch in some codes. No, wait a minute. Or maybe, Molly says something to Mercy and it makes you do this. I don't know which of those things is the best choice, but I'll write them both down. They're both down on paper that way. And they don't skitter away from me like the rabbit running away. I've got them now. And then, so I just try to throw all the ideas down, again, without being critical and saying that's not good enough or whatever. And then after I got everything sort of like throw it all up against the wall, then I can start rearranging it, and then you go back and start analyzing and structuring and rewriting and all that excruciating work there. But the way to avoid being stopped is to not stop. just
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just keep putting, and then same with drawing. I don't draw great panels every single time I draw, but I always draw a panel when I'm drawing. Get something done. If I can't stand it and I have enough time, maybe later I'll go back and try to smooth out the rough edges there. But it's more important for me to keep making progress and keep going forward than to make anything perfect. I believe in the motto, perfect is boring. So just make it as good as you can given the time constraints you have and your abilities at the time, and then move on and fight the next battle. So, I don't know if that's helpful. It's not easy, but if you're lucky, an idea will pop into your brain, and then you just have to figure out, again, put down ideas for different details that can help that idea come about.
Yeah.
But, just get started and keep at it.
Like we used to say in the military, a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow.
Yes, totally. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I've never done a perfect page, a perfect story, or anything. I just try to do really good ones, the best I can, and then I move on and try to do better next time.
And that's great advice, because what I've been, as I've been going through this book, I've been keeping it simpler, and instead of trying to do such drastic angles and whatnot, I've been trying to just keep it a lot simpler. So for me, it's a lot easier to draw, and like I said, it's actually being a lot more productive, and it's actually coming out a bit better. You know what I mean? As opposed to, and then eventually you get that shot that looks awesome, but every page is not going to be your best page, like you said, and that's something I had to learn the hard way,
Yeah,
so that's
and the idea about this is a little bit of sort of penciler's shop talk here, but the idea about using a lot of tricky, dramatic angles, those can work in some places, but I think one has to be very, very careful about using those tricky angles, because what they can often do is make a page that becomes this visual puzzle that the reader has to solve, and that is not your job. Your job is to tell the story. Your job is to tell the story as clearly and as compellingly as you can. Full stop.
And that's excellent advice.
If that requires a few tricky shots in order to make an action really clear and interesting to the reader, then that's when you use those. But a lot of times, a fairly simple, straightforward shot where you're showing clearly the person entering the room or whatever it is serves the story better. It may not be the best way to show off your awesome drawing chops, but again, that is also not my job, is to make people impressed with me as an artist. My job is to tell a story that they care about and want to read more of. That's it.
Exactly. So, and keep them interested. Like you said, what's coming up next? You know what I mean?
What's coming up next? That's the only question the storyteller wants the reader to say, not, ooh, what a great clever bit of dialogue Ron wrote there, or what a nice drawing of Mercy that is there. No, that's great.
Exactly.
That stuff is great, only to the extent that it helps me tell that story in a way that keeps the reader right in the palm of my hands. That's
you
all.
know what, and that's an excellent way to look at it. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, that makes sense. Just use them when necessary, because I was trying to do all this crazy, perspective, this and that, and it gets complicated, like you said, But yeah, I can attest to that.
Another question from the chat from someone that I think you know, Ron. It is Mr. Gene Hendricks. He says, forgive the self-serving question, Rob, but what is it like hearing Mercy and Molly for the first time? And for those of you who don't understand the question, Gene is helping Ron do an audio version of this book, correct?
Nice.
And so you have actual voice talent for these characters.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite right. It's not that Gene is helping me do this thing. Gene's doing it.
I don't like to give Gene too much credit because I know him too.
Well, he deserves it all here. They've got that theater troupe, the Akadekagonagon Theater. I'm very proud of the fact that I can say that name by
that. That is impressive.
But anyway, he's got this theater group, and they approached me asking if I would be open to the idea about them adapting Trekker into an audio drama. And I just about lost my mind with excitement because I love a good audio drama. It's sort of in the style of old time radio and whatnot. So I was on board from the beginning, and the first thing that Gene sent me a little audio sample was he had the actresses that voice Mercy and Molly did a little like a spot promo for the first episode coming out, and I just shook my head because they sounded so perfect.
Nice.
They had the personalities of Mercy and Molly seemed like they were there and sort of fully formed, and it was just a real thrill. And to hear I did say see, but to hear the way they worked with those two actresses and then the rest of the crew, and then this amazing, I guess I'd call it a soundscape that their sound effects person is come with music and just sort of environmental noises to just really evoke the world. It's been an absolute delight. So I'm really thrilled about that. And I might mention that on the Kickstarter campaign, Gene was very gracious and I thought it was a great idea. He said, we can have a few cameo roles so that a backer of your Kickstarter campaign can just have like a 1 or 2 line for a character in this Trekker story. So that's one of the rewards that you can get on this campaign, is you can be in the audio drama, the Trekker audio drama. So,
but they have to be involved with Gene though.
Although they have to pay Gene a huge amount of money.
See, there's always the downside. I'm just kidding.
I think he often likes sports cars.
Yeah. Well, that is great. I think that winds up all of our questions, and we're right at the 58-minute mark. And I told you this would take 30 minutes to an hour. And well, everybody likes talking to Ron Randall, so it looks like we're going to press that hour. And I just want to say thanks for being here and doing this with us. We wish you the best of luck. It doesn't sound like you need it. It sounds like your campaign's doing really well, which is great.
It is going great. Every time you launch one of these things, you just hold your breath, hit that button, and you don't know what's going to happen. At least I don't know what's going to happen. So it's been a thrill to see the reception that time after time the campaigns have been getting. So I'm just really gratified that there are so many people that have found the character in the series and like it and are loyal to it. It's fantastic.
Gene says 3 of the 6 cameo roles have already been claimed, and he also says a 1971 Oldsmobile 440 convertible would not be turned down. Final thoughts or questions from my awesome artist friend Mark Hatherley, who takes my stupid stories and makes awesome pictures out of them.
I try to. No, I just want to say it's been nice having you, and thank you. I mean, I've received a lot of great advice tonight, because I mean, I read a bunch of things, you listen to certain artists on videos, but to actually be direct and interactive with, someone that, pencils and been doing it for many years. I mean, you've helped me out a huge amount. I think the next page may be even easier. You know what I mean?
That's all I hear.
A lot of these stuff, sometimes you just, where I am in Bermuda, I tell Jarrod all the time, I don't even know if there's another comic book artist here on the island, you know what I mean? Literally. So it is actually great to interact with someone that, shares the same passion, you know what I mean? And I just want to say thank you. It's been a big help.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
And a reminder, Mark, I told you how to package that. You are the best comic artist in Bermuda.
Yeah. I like the song.
Period. Till somebody shows up to challenge that, we're rocking that one all the way.
Exactly. We're gonna roll with it.
Awesome. So yeah, just echo that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time to answer the questions in the chat. I know those people are really appreciative. Thanks for sharing your time with us, and I hope your Kickstarter goes well. I'm going to put the one last time for anybody who might have missed it, www.trekkerkickstarter.com. Get it now and get it while it's good. I can personally tell you I've got some Trekker stuff and I like it. So free endorsements for us here.
Yep.
Well, thanks again for being here. And if anybody else got anything for the crew, now's your time, because I'm about to click in broadcast. And you want to talk? All right. Well, don't forget to check us out at Longbox Crusade for any of your podcasting needs. We've got several shows out there. Always stop by our YouTube channel, and we're going to do that thing that all YouTubers do. Don't forget to like to this video and subscribe, and you know the deal. So, thanks again, everybody. Thanks again for Living Legend Ron Randall to join us.
And Thanks very much, guys.
We'll see you guys next time. Oh, did somebody squeeze in? You know what it was, Mark. Courtney just squeezed in the classic question. I almost forgot how we end every episode, as if I didn't notice. What's for dinner?
Oh my God.
I'll tell you right now, I got some chicken Alfredo going for me, Courtney. No noodles, because you know my diet. What about you? What about you, Mr. Ron Randall? What you having for dinner?
I haven't decided yet, so sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. What about you, Mark?
I have no idea. I'll probably just eat a sandwich.
It's
getting later.
I know. Oh, it is late for you. I forgot.
Nah, it's not that late.
So let's wind it up. Thanks for reminding me of the final question, Courtney, of what's for dinner. And
how could we forget, huh?